maybe Louise will be in.
All right, and we're ready now.
I think we are. We're good. Maybe Louise will pop in by the time we're ready to roll. So, okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our meeting for the Environmental Advisory Committee. Today's Tuesday, March the 22nd, and I want to welcome one, maybe two in a minute, new members. Maria Jawad, how do you pronounce your last name?
Actually,
Maria?
it's pronounced Maria, and the last name's Jawad.
Jawad. Okay,
Yeah.
Maria. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And hopefully Louise is going to be jumping in shortly. But Maria, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Maria Jawad, and I'm a resident of New Tecumseh, and I live in the Alliston area. And I haven't got too much experience in municipal governance, but I'm hoping to gain some more, and saw this opportunity. And I actually have a bit of a background in environmental planning and policy. So I've just spent the last 13 years with the provincial government. So I work for the Ministry of Northern Development, Natural Resources, and Forestry. And that is going to actually soon change, and I'm going to be switching over to the federal government and working for Environment and Climate Change Canada in their policy shop. So a bit of experience in this kind of realm, and hopefully can add to this this committee.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. Yeah, they keep changing the name of the ministries all the time in the province. It's like, okay, what are we this week?
I think I actually just botched it, but
okay, nobody paid attention to that. You're good. Now, have we got Louise on yet, Pam? Because I don't know.
No, she hasn't joined in yet.
Okay. Do you want us to keep going? I hate doing that on Louise, especially when she's new. Okay, well, we'll keep going. So the agenda tonight, have we got any items to add or delete to our agenda? Helen.
Sorry, just very quickly, I just wanted to mention that today is World Water Day, and I thought for our EAC committee, it would be very appropriate to acknowledge that. And the theme for this year is groundwater, making the invisible visible. So I thought just something for our committee to be aware of. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Well, happy International World Water Day. We'll all have a drink of water after, with something maybe in it. Lemons and limes. Okay, is there anything else to add to the agenda? No? Okay, can I have a motion then to accept the agenda? Helen, moved by Helen, seconded by Shira. All in favor? Thank you. We're good. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. If you have a pecuniary interest, if you want to announce it now, or if there's something that comes up that you feel that maybe you might have a conflict, please do so. And I see Louise is joining us right now. So we'll just wait a second here. Louise, are you there? Can you show your camera? There she is. Welcome, Louise. And if you want to unmute yourself and introduce yourself to the rest of us.
Hi, everyone. Sorry to be late. I didn't get the memo. Sorry, what did you ask of me, Donna?
Oh, would you like to introduce yourself, Louise, please, to the rest of us?
Yeah, thank you. Well, Louise Montague, I live in Briar Hill in Alliston. I've been a resident of Alliston for about 2 years. And I am also a founding member of a very new group here in Briar Hill, and and Greenbrier called Grays for Green, focused on the environment and what we can do locally here, so within our little community. So very much looking forward to hopefully being able to make a contribution to this group, but learning from everyone. I actually, before I applied, I went through all of the videos of previous meetings, and I was so impressed with everybody's comments and contributions and the guest speakers and everything. So I was quite excited about being able to join you, and I hope I can make a contribution. So I'm looking forward to meeting everybody in person someday, and leave it at that.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we've already confirmed the agenda, and Helen, if you want to let Louise know what is today, you gave the announcement. I'm going to give it to you back again. International.
Yes. Today is World Water Day, and it's the theme this year is groundwater, making the invisible visible. And I thought that was appropriate for our Environmental Advisory Committee. Thanks, Councillor
Sure
Jen.
is.
Thanks, Helen. Okay, so also if you have any pecuniary interest or conflict of interest, if you want to declare it now, or if something comes up that you feel that you need to declare, please do so. We don't have any requests to speak. The summary report. Now, I don't know, Maria and Louise, did you get the pack? You must have saw our summary report, and it goes to our council and council approves it. And you would have maybe got it with the package with the agenda. So is there any comments on the summary report? I'm looking, no. Can I have a motion then to accept wait a second, Pam, do I have to make a motion?
Yeah, just a motion to receive the summary report dated January 26th.
Okay, yes, so Shira moved it, Helen second, and everyone else in favor, just put your yes card up. Thank you. Okay, passed. We have deputations presentations. We have two this evening. The first one is Councillor Alex Waters, Town of Innisfil, regarding passive houses. And Alex, I believe you're there. Welcome, Councillor Waters.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
And
Sure.
I think your presentation, I think Pam has it.
I believe she does.
Yep, so if you're ready to go, then we'll start the presentation, and then you can just give me some verbal cues for the next slide. And I believe slide 2 has the video.
Yes.
Okay, so just give me a moment to start sharing, and we'll be good to go. And everyone can see that?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Passive House explained in 90 seconds. Does your house have a heat? Passive House explained in 90 seconds. Does your house have a heater in the basement or maybe a fireplace? Probably also a central air conditioner or maybe a window unit. Did you ever wonder if it was necessary? In 1991, a physicist in Austria, Dr. Feist, built the first passive house. Here's what he did. 1. Proper insulation. It's just like wearing the right winter jacket. It also doesn't need a heater. 2. No air leakages. There should be no holes, small or large, to let hot air out of the house. 3. No thermal bridges. A thermal bridge is like a road for heating energy in which warmth can travel right through your walls. As a matter of fact, most of our houses have thermal highways in our walls where heat can easily travel to the outside. Plus, the house needs proper windows most of the time with triple pane glass. It needs to be oriented properly so the sun can heat it in the winter and shade is provided in the summer. And it uses an HRV, a device that provides the inside with fresh air without letting the heat out. Add all these things up, and it turns out your house doesn't need a heater or air conditioner. So where does the heat come from? A passive house needs 90% less energy, and that can easily be supplied by your body heat, the sun, your appliances, light bulbs, and even your TV. This saves you a lot of money on your heating bill and helps preserve the environment. Did we make it in 90 seconds? You bet we did.
Well, that was a quick introduction. I was going to introduce myself first of all, but that came up rather quickly. But so I'll just step back just a little bit, just to let you give you a little background on who I am. I'm a first-term counselor in the town of Innisfil. I've lived here for 35 years. Prior to being a counselor, I had retired 4 years earlier. I was a sustainability specialist for the Toronto Region Conservation Authority, and I was senior manager at the Courtright Center for Conservation, where we researched, demonstrated green buildings, green technologies, and also had a whole series of education programs. So that's what I kind of did for 30 years. And when I retired, decided that I wanted to do something very similar because I was a little bit disappointed in the progress we had been making in green buildings. So I decided that I wanted to build a new house here in Innisfil. I built my first house, which is our 2000 house, and wanted to build a new house. And did a lot of research and came up with Passive House. It was an international standard and certification program based out of Germany, which has the most stringent green building standards in the world. So I took a course, passed the program, and then decided to build our own house. So the video you just watched gave you an introduction in terms of all the components that make a passive house. I don't want you to misunderstand that because it's called Passive House, it only talks about residential buildings. This refers to residential buildings, commercial buildings, institutional buildings, all across the line. So it's just not about passive houses, but it's about passive buildings. So that gives you an idea of what it is. So what I'm going to do is just go through my build and how it pertains to each of those strategies to make one of the most energy efficient buildings in the world. And just to let you know, one of my passions was I always wanted to build a house which didn't require a furnace. This house does not require a furnace.
All right, so you raised your hand, Alex. Does that mean you want next slide? Alex, are you there?
Yes, can you go to the next slide, please?
Yeah. One sec.
Passive House explained in 90 seconds.
Yeah, sometimes when
there we go. So the nice thing about Passive House is that it actually has hard targets. Unlike LEED and many other building programs, which don't have hard targets, Passive House does. If you don't reach these targets, your building can't be called a passive house. So it has to have 15 watts per meter squared. That's an energy intensity for building space. Air leakage. Houses are very, very leaky. A lot of your air energy is lost through air leakage. Is 0.6 air changes per hour, and it has a total energy consumption. So at the end of the day, if you don't meet any of these standards, your house doesn't get certified. Next. So just starting from excavation, we've decided that in Innisfil, as you may find in your own community, we have very, very high groundwater. So we weren't building a basement at this site here. So we basically just took off the topsoil, put down a little bit of engineering soil, and started building right from there, because we were going with a foundation that town planners and buildings inspectors had never ever heard of before. So I had to do a lot of teaching. So I was just continuing on my job from before about what the new foundation is going to be. So next. So this is the arrival of the foundation. It's made of styrofoam. So there's no concrete in the foundation, in the lower part of the foundation. It's all styrofoam. Next. This foundation is called a Raf Foundation. And you can see here, this is the thickness of the insulation underneath the concrete slab that we're going to put in here. So there's no footings, no crawl space or anything. You're building right on top of the ground. And this is 12 inches thick. It's R50. And this is just the outer perimeter, but it slowly gets filled in, as you'll see in the next slide. Next.
You want to go in?
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
So that's my son and I. We did all the construction ourselves, and my family and all our volunteers that we had. So except for the metal roof and the drywall, we did all the work ourselves on this house. Next. So once you've put down the insulation foundation, you putting re-rod into it and then fill it full of concrete. And that's what your slab, that's what you build on is right there. So again, no crawl space, that's your foundation right there. So you're building on styrofoam, no footings at all. Next. Once you have the slab down, then you start building the walls, and because it's a high energy efficient building, insulation is key. So this wall is actually two walls built into one. So there's two 2x4 walls nailed together with a spacer between it, so that could house lots of insulation. This is called a double wall construction. Next. Now, normally when you build a house, you have what this material here is called OSB, oriented strand board, on the outside. It provides rigidity and structural strength to the building, but it has a lot of glue in it. So it actually, when water vapor gets into the wall, it can't get back out and you get a lot of rot. So what we did here is we reversed engineered the wall. We put this on the inside and it acted as our vapor barrier. So you don't have the plastic layer on the inside as you normally would. You have this instead, and you tape all the seams. And so it gives you your structural integrity. It acts as a vapor barrier, and probably this is one of a few houses that's ever done this in Canada. Next. So that outside wall has no structural strength to it. It's just to hold insulation. On the inside, we built a third wall, which was a 2x4 wall, which actually holds all the weight. It's a load-bearing wall. And besides being a load-bearing wall, it also provides an opportunity to add another layer of insulation to it. So that's all kind of the structural parts of the walls. And next. On the top, we added a truss system, and it has what's called a raised heel truss. It's 24 inches high, and that allows for full insulation across the entire ceiling. So you have lots of insulation space in that ceiling. So once you have the structure, then you can start adding your insulation, which I think is coming up next. So we'll go to the next one. Before we get there, this is that double wall construction. And you'll notice that what we've used here is something called thermal bridge free construction, which means that there's no 2x4 or 2x6 that goes from the inside wall to the outside wall, because that reduces the insulation value of the insulation. So if you had a 2x6 wall that had R20 insulation in it, by introducing that 2x6, it reduces that whole wall down to R14. So this way you have no thermal bridging, no thermal highways to allow the heat and cold to get into the building. So that's why we have the double wall. Next. So you start adding insulation, you have a vertical, this is rock solid insulation, vertical, then horizontal. That horizontal piece is the one that's between all the studs. And then we add another 4 inches of vertical. So you have a total of insulation is about R50. A standard house today is about maybe in the walls is Ontario Building Code is about R27. So right now we're almost twice that before we add the next layer. Next. That structural wall, we add another layer there. So it gives us a total of R65. So, double what the insulation value is for your normal house for your wall. So we have R50 in the foundation, R65 in the walls. Now, the attic, next. We filled up with cellulose insulation, 24 inches, gives us R85. So what you're building, you're building a thermos and lots of insulation to help keep that heat in. So once you've got all that insulation in there, next you have to make sure that it's airtight. Next. Oh, sorry, I should have mentioned. On the outside, we have the sheathing that allows the wall to breathe, so that if moisture does get in the wall, it can get back out again. And then next. Then you put your weather barrier on the outside, and that protects the building from getting any moisture inside the wall from the outside, rain and that type of stuff, or wind. Next. Now you have all these holes that you've put in the wall because you want to have light shining into the building, which are your windows. And so windows are really quite important to Passive House. And the Passive House certification program out of Germany allows you to, they list a whole bunch of materials, technologies, structures, that are Passive House certified. So these windows here are super energy efficient. They come all the way from Ireland. And you would think that's really expensive, but these windows here are better than any window produced in Canada at about half the cost. So even when you include the transportation, all my windows and doors cost me less than $22,000. And they're all triple glazed, low E argon filled windows, and they have double the R value of any window on the Canadian market. And so next. Once you put them in the wall, you want to make sure that you make sure the building's airtight. So you fill it full of foam on the one side, and then you tape over top of it, and that makes sure that no air leaks in and around that window at all, just to continue the tightness of the whole envelope. Next. What you do is we do a blower door test, and before that image disappeared, we suck all the air out of the building. So before you put your drywall on, you do this blower door test, and what it does, it shows you where all the leaks are in the entire building, and then it gives you a chance to fix them before you put your drywall on. And so you'll see some infrared imaging on the left-hand side there. That shows you that there's actually leakage through that OSB panel there. It was one defective panel where the air was actually coming through the OSB. So this gave us a chance to fix that before we went on. The lower picture is a picture of ground wire going through the wall. We filled it with foam, figuring that was good enough, but you can see that there's a whole bunch of air leaking in and around that. So we had to end up having to tape all that to make sure that leakage didn't happen. So we came in at about 1.1 air changes per hour. That's double what Passive House relies on. So we would have failed this if we hadn't done this ahead of time. Next. After we fixed all those holes that we found, the house came in at 0.4 air changes per hour. So Passive House is 0.6. We came in well below that. In fact, the fellow who did the testing for us said it was the tightest house he had ever tested in Canada at that time. He says the only thing he tested that was better than that was a marijuana grow up. So that was kind of interesting that he actually did that as well. But it was very, very airtight. That means you have no air leakage. You have lots of insulation, no air leakage. So step 2 is down and kind of moving on. Next. This is what the inside of the house looked like. Once we finished, we put the drywall on it, finished off all the interiors. So next. So now that you have this airtight building, it's great for energy efficiency, but it's terrible for the people who have to live in it because you have to breathe. And so what you have to have is mechanical ventilation, and it's called either an HRV or an ERV. ERV stands for Energy Recovery Ventilator. And what it does, it just mechanically exchanges the air, but it recovers the heat before it throws it outside. Most HRVs in Canada are about 60% efficient. This one came from Europe, and it's 95% efficient at recovering the heat in the building. Super energy efficient, very, very quiet, uses very, very little energy to make things happen. But this is what keeps us alive inside because it brings fresh air, but recovers the heat from it. So it's an absolute must when you build an airtight building. Next. This is just some of the independent ventilation that goes along with it. It's not typical like your normal ventilation system. It's made up of all this 3-inch pipe. Next. This is what the house looks like from the outside. So now you have an airtight, well-insulated house. How do you heat it? So basically you heat it by using the sun. So the south-facing side is 30% windows to allow that sun to shine into the building. But you'll also notice that we don't want it getting overheated during the summertime, so we make sure that the overhang on the top shades the windows during the summertime, but allows that sun to penetrate into the building. On the lower windows, we've built a shading device over there since this picture was taken, so that you don't get overheating from the lower windows. So passive heating is really quite important for this house. That's where a good majority of our heat comes during the wintertime. Next. On the electrics, on the water heating side, we just used a simple 3 kilowatt electric hot water heater because I didn't want to spend a lot of money on something that I might change down the road. I was hoping for new, more energy efficient technology down the road. We didn't want to use any fossil fuels on the regular part of the building. So we chose an all-electric building because at some point in time, we wanted to also be able to supply solar electricity to the house. On the left-hand side, that's the ERV, which I showed earlier. And if you notice the little box down in the corner there, it says 2 kilowatt electric heater. So because it's not 100% efficient at recovering the heat, it is dumping a little bit of cold air into the house, and you don't want that cold air to cool down the building. So you put a little, what's called a post heater on there, and that's a 2 kilowatt heater. That's the size of a hair dryer. That's the only heater I have in my entire house. That's what heats our house, is that hair dryer, and that keeps our building warm all winter long. Next. So once we've heated the place, we needed to provide electricity because it's an all-electric house. We put 5 kilowatt solar system on the house, which is connected to the microfit system that died a few years ago. But for our house, we get 30 cents a kilowatt hour for every kilowatt hour electricity that we generate. And we have to spend in order to buy electricity because we can't live solely on this without having batteries. We're hooked up to the utility. So the utility costs me about $1,600 a year in electricity, and I generate $1,800 a year. So I make $200 a year, and that supplies all the energy for our house. So, it doesn't. So because I'm retired, saving money was really quite important to me. In as I get older and our income starts to decline a little bit. So that's our guarantee against that. Next. So on the right-hand side is the passive house standard, and on the left-hand side is the targets that we managed to meet. So on every level, the house managed to meet the passive house targets. So we have a very, very inexpensive house to live in. It's very, very comfortable. And like I said, I've been doing tours of this house for years and years and years. And it was just a continuation of what I did when I was at Courtright around our education program there. So next. So OBC stands for Ontario Building Code. So basically on this is in terms of what it cost us to build this place. You'll notice at the end, we spent $13,000 more building the passive house than we did a typical house. Now the foundation on the OBC house is a Raf Foundation, but just thinner, that meets the Ontario code. If we had built a normal crawl space or something with footings, that would have cost us $25,000 in that case there, and the difference would have only been $6,000 or $7,000. So $6,000 or $7,000 to build a house that doesn't require any heating at all, that's quite comfortable, and you can't hear a thing outside because the windows are so soundproof and the walls are so soundproof. A very, very quiet, comfortable house. So for an extra $7,000 a year, we built it. That pays for itself. Our energy savings pays for this in less than 5 years. So for me, it was well worth it. But I also have to put the caveat in there, is that we did the construction ourselves. Most of the costs that you'll see in the next picture, we supplied the labor. The only thing that there was labor on was the metal roof and the drywall and the excavation. So last slide, I think it is, or in the second last slide. So basically, this was the this is the energy savings, and basically, you can see that our house uses a third of the energy a normal house would use in terms of cooling and our electricity. That annual electricity that you see there, that's with a house that has gas heating. So in terms of our annual kilowatt energy, we're using quite a bit less. So on every level, this house uses a lot less energy, is a lot more comfortable, and a lot better place to live than a normal house that you would normally have to buy on the open market. Next slide, please. And there we go. I only had 7 minutes, so I tried to move through that as quickly as I possibly could. But like I says, the house is, we've been very, very pleased with the house. We originally designed the house with 2 kids, a dog, 2 cats, and ourselves, which also supplies a lot of the heat for inside of the building. So over the years, we find as we lose our little mini radiators in terms of our kids, that we've noticed that our energy costs have gone up a little bit in terms of heating, because we don't have that internal heat gains that we normally have. But overall, it's a great house. We enjoy it thoroughly, and it's a building style that's gaining prominence across North America, because as I mentioned earlier, it's the most stringent energy standard in the world, and it's the only one that that has solid targets behind it. And in Innisfil, we've recently completed a partnership with Habitat for Humanity, and they'll be building a multi-res passive building in Innisfil. So we'll have a single house, passive house, we'll have a multi-res, and then hopefully this will all work into our project that we call the Orbit. We're hoping that will be the case. So anyways, that's what passive house is. And if you have any questions, I'll more than willingly entertain them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex. That was interesting. I have a quick question. How long did that take you to build that house?
Oh, believe it or not, it took us 6 months.
Oh my
We
goodness.
we started the beginning of June, and I told my wife that we would be in before Christmas. We moved in December 24th. Now, we didn't have a
Good for you.
finished, we had one bathroom and we didn't have a finished kitchen, but we moved in, and it took me a few years to finish all the trim work and all that kind of stuff. But we were able to, with my kids and our friends that helped me out, we had a lot of volunteers because they wanted to learn about this, the house. So 6 months.
Wow, good for you. Do I have any questions? I'm sure I do. Helen, go ahead. And
Thank
then
you.
Louise.
Thanks, Councillor Waters. I think I may have run into you before at Courtright. I worked for York Region Public Health for many years.
Oh, yes, probably.
Yes. So that I'm so impressed with that, your presentation and the house you described. So I volunteer now with the Ontario Public Health Association, and I had the opportunity a couple of weeks ago to review the Ontario Building Code, because there's proposed changes to the Ontario Building Code, a lot around energy efficiency. And from a public health perspective, when you talked about the comfort and the ability for people to be able to breathe healthy indoor air, also for climate change, I was disappointed that the Ontario Building Code, the proposal, didn't propose stronger energy efficiency standards, but you've shown that it's possible. So, I mean, that's, there could be a pushback that maybe this isn't really available for all of Ontario. And I know the building code is the minimum standards, but municipalities cannot really push for stronger energy efficiency other than the building code. So I don't know if this is a question or a comment that, I mean, you've shown that it can be done. I think we really do need to push at the provincial level, but do you have any comments on the building code and the efficiency standards?
Well, the building code does change every 5 years, so there's always hope the next rendition will have more to it. But the Ontario Building Code did change 4 years ago, that there is a software program that goes along with Passive House, and that's how they do all the analysis ahead of time. And when we did the analysis on this house, it told me exactly what the house would use, and it was dead on. We use about 12,000 kilowatt hours of electricity a year. It said we would lose 11,500. So it's a really good program for doing energy analysis on buildings. And the Ontario Building Code did recognize it as a program that can be used to do heat loss calculations for homes. So they do recognize that. There are a lot more buildings, a lot more consultants across Canada. So this is gaining steam. And it just requires people to just keep on pushing it and to have demonstrations built. So if you have some nonprofit housing, this is a wonderful opportunity because, buildings, they take a lot of money to build them, but they take more money to actually maintain them in terms of the energy they use. So if long-term costs, operational costs are really a problem, is to build a passive house because it reduces your long-term costs. Yes, it may cost you a little bit more at the beginning, but the long-term costs make a lot of sense for municipalities when it comes to nonprofit housing, institutional buildings, their own institutional buildings in terms of what they're doing. So it's certainly up to us just to keep on pushing them. And that was one of the main reasons I ran for council, was because I wanted to see Innisfil move in a slightly different direction, and we've made a little nudge, and I'm quite pleased with that so far.
Thank you.
Donna, maybe I can jump in. I had a question. Thank you. Well, Alex, that was fantastic. You're an inspiration, so thank you for that. I had questions about the Ontario Building Code too, but could you comment on cooling in the summertime?
Very good question. Yes, because you've got all that insulation inside the walls, basically it takes quite a while for the house to heat up, but it does. I'm not going to lie, is that when we built the house, we built it without an air conditioning system in the building. And we found out in the first year that if we get 5 solid days where you have, above 25 degrees, the house will slowly warm at night. Because normally what you do is with our ERV, we help cool the building down at nighttime, bringing fresh air into the building. But if
Mhm.
it's not cool at nighttime,
Yeah.
you can't reduce the temperature. And that first year, we did find that the house did get a little bit warm during the summertime. So what we ended up doing is that we introduced a small apartment size window air conditioner on our upper floor, 8,000 BTUs. That cools our entire house. So
Good.
yes, we did have to put some air conditioning into it, but it's so small, and we barely even notice it on our electricity bill. So, but no, it's a good point. Air conditioning, it's getting more and more difficult to keep these buildings cooler during the summertime, but because of all that insulation and the shading that you do,
Yeah.
it's not a very difficult task to cool down a building of this size with a small air conditioning system.
Great. Thank you.
I think Jennifer had a question.
Yeah, I just did. Thanks for answering the question on the cooling, because without some type of air conditioning, I don't think I would melt. But one question I had with no basement, did you just do a major purge with regards to storage? Because Canadians love to hoard, and I can tell you that we went to a smaller storage room so we couldn't keep it. How are you dealing with that? I know you've got a full 2-story house. I didn't know if the attic was designed for storage, because I know typical suburban homes, you can't use the attic space to its ability. If that was part of the consideration in your design.
Oh, you got a very, very good point. Basements are a great place to store things, but in Innisfil, basements here always get wet, and they become uncomfortable places to be. So we made that decision a long time ago to get rid of the basement. But storage is an issue. On this property before we built it was an old cottage. We were able to keep the foundation, and we built our garage above it. And what we did is we built for future use a 1-bedroom apartment above that garage. So right now it's just all storage for all of our junk. But as our kids have moved out, we've sent packages with them, and to help get rid of some of that stuff. And hopefully, because my wife's going to be retiring in September, we're hoping to change that into a full 1-bedroom and rent it out, and that will take care of any additional expenses we have. But storage space is something most definitely you have to consider when you're building one of these, because I've seen some people have two-car garages and they're filled with junk. so yes, something you have to build into these when you're building. If you're not building a basement, but you can. It's not to say you can't build a basement. You just have to insulate it properly. And so if you want to maintain that basement and you don't have any groundwater issues, you can do that quite easily and still have that storage.
So there's no room in the attic in this current with the truss design that you could use for storage or whatnot. Because I know older homes have a different truss system, and you can, they may be low and whatever, but you can definitely stick a Christmas tree and some clothes up there or something, right?
That's true. In this house, the attic is big enough.
Okay.
But we because of air leakage, we didn't put an attic hatch inside the house. It's actually on the outside of the house. You actually need a ladder to get up there. What we did do is on the veranda, is that the veranda has some space above it. And so we actually have an attic hatch there that allows us to put all of our Christmas decorations and all that kind of stuff in that area. So we did build some storage space into there, but it's a point well taken. Storage is something you have to think about if you're not building a basement.
Oh, I didn't realize I was on mute before. Sorry about that. Maria.
Hi there, and wonderful presentation. I just had a question regarding if you had run into any challenges seeking approvals for your building, and specifically given Innisfil has issues with flooding, whether LSRCA or if you are an NVCA, if any of those had had any thoughts or giving you any hurdles there.
No, I knew right from square one, because there were a lot of things I was doing in this house that the building inspectors would have never seen before. So I made it a point well before I ever built this place. I walked into the building department. I said to them, I asked them how open they were to innovation and energy efficiency. And luckily enough, there was a lot of young staff here. And so they were all quite intrigued to learn of what I was doing. They just made sure that I had to make sure that I had all the proper stamps. So when it came to the foundation, no one had ever seen this foundation before. Building an entire house on styrofoam, that was unheard of. And so they just told me, he says, make sure it has the right engineer stamps beside it, and they take all the liability. It won't be the town. So basically, the Raf Foundation was probably the biggest thing they had concerns about, because like I said, they'd never seen it before. But every inspector that came in, they came in, and if they were really, they were great. They if they didn't understand what I was doing, I explained it to them. And so it was an education process for them, and it was a learning process for me. So it worked out really well. In terms of the groundwater, I'm not in a regulated area, floodplain area, but it's just because we're about a block and a half away from the lake. The groundwater table is quite high, and so putting a basement, we lived just actually around the corner. Our old house was just around the corner from us, and I had 2 sump pumps. And in the springtime and in the fall, they were going continuously, and I had probably 2 minor floods in that crawl space over the years when I was there. So I knew what I was dealing with and didn't want to have to deal with that ever again. But in a place that has proper drainage, it's really not an issue. And I encourage everyone who wants to build a house like this, is that they just get in touch with their building department. And Innisfil has the chief building inspector here has allowed other inspectors to call them. And he talks about the experience we had with them. And so when we moved to the Habitat for Humanity, when we're talking about passive house, all the staff are well aware of it. I have some champions on staff who are now passive house certified. Almost every single staff person is familiar with passive house and the rigid standards. And so now I can just say, I don't have to deal with a lot of the questions. I can just send them to the staff, internal staff. So because I was involved in education at Courtright for all those years, I understood how important it was to get people on board, and education is really part of it. So every year up until the pandemic, I open my house every November on passive house days for tours. And so over the past 8 years, I've probably had close to 500 or 600 people go through my house just to encourage this type of building, because sometimes people don't believe it until they see it. So and they feel it. So it's just what I've done all my life. And then I encourage anyone else who does this to make sure they pass on a good word in terms of if they had a good experience with it.
Good idea to do it in the fall. Then all that extra people in your house brings in some more energy. Good planning. Good planning. Yes. I was going to ask you about your basement, because I was just talking to a fellow today. He lives in Oro-Medonte, and he has I think he said 8 foot underneath the house. It's not a crawl space. He said, so for him, if he has to go and check something like ductwork, he goes on a creeper. And he says, it's very difficult. He says, I wish they had made it just a little bit 10 inches or from the 8. He says, I banged my head on the floor joists. So do you have to go into that crawl space at all, like for your ductwork or anything?
No, because there's no foundation at all. We built right on top of that slab. All the ductwork is built into I built a channel on the first floor underneath the second floor that goes from one end of the house to the other end of the house. And it's just a wall divide. And so all my ductwork follows in there, all my plumbing follows in, all my electrical follows in there, so that anything goes wrong, I know exactly where it is. So it's, making sure you plan ahead of time so you have accessibility to all those things. The only thing that it would be difficult to get into would be the plumbing, which goes through the concrete floor. But then it eventually exits the side of the house, and I have access to that outside the house. But once it's in the concrete floor, it's kind of embedded in there.
Yeah, because he said they built their house on a slab, so they have no basement either. So if you had an issue and it was would it be in the drywall that you'd have to cut into the drywall, or you've got little doors that you would be able to access?
It's accessible in the utility room where I can get at a good part of it. But if there was ever an issue, I would have to cut open the drywall. And because I know where everything is, I know exactly where I'd have to cut. But also we do have I should also mention too is that we do have a gas fireplace in it for emergency backup. So if there's ever electricity shortage, is that we do have a gas fireplace, and above the gas fireplace, a lot of that area is open that I can get access through quite easily. So there's only a very, very small part, it's about 8 feet long, that I don't have access to. So most of it is accessible either in the utility room or in the area above the gas fireplace.
Mhm. Oh, good. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Well, Councillor Waters, I want to thank you very much. This was very interesting and has given us some ideas here that we can maybe put forward to council, to put forward to the building department, maybe Jennifer, I don't know. But lots of great ideas. Thank you very much for information.
I appreciate the opportunity. I want to thank Councillor Harris McIntyre for, I assume the invitation was initiated by her because she sits on the board of directors of the Lake St. Paul Region Conservation Authority. So thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to kind of spread the word, get you enthusiastic, and maybe things can be moving in your own area. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, our next presenter is Laura Brannan, Planning Department, and regarding Town of New Tecumseh Climate Change Action Plan. There she is, Laura. I'm going to turn on the light. I'm seeing in the dark here. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you very much. I think Pam's got my slides. So yeah, so I'm going to introduce the Climate Action Plan. It's very early stages at this point, so it's a good opportunity to come to you all. I'm going to run through some high-level best practice, what I'm envisaging the plan to look like, what will be included, and kind of an indicative work plan with some rough timelines that we can talk around. Thank you, Pam. Excellent. So next slide, please. So yeah, I did a bit of a best practice review of some of the climate action plans that we've got in Ontario. I'll very quickly run through kind of my key findings. Integration is important. That's not just you know, in terms of departments working together, so at a municipal level, but also in terms of mitigation and adaptation, and also feeding into that kind of hierarchy of upper tier and lower tier where it's applicable. Obviously, that is applicable to us because we have the County of Simcoe sitting above us. So that's something to consider whilst we draft the climate action plan. Using existing frameworks and not reinventing the wheel. I know County of Simcoe are using the Partners in Climate Protection framework, and I think Dufferin County and Muskoka County are also using something similar. I'll go on to my proposed approach a little later, but in short, we also kind of have to be realistic about the resources and the budget that's available to us. So, as I say, I'll talk about my approach in a little while there, but something to be aware of that we don't need to reinvent the wheel, basically. We also need to tailor it to our local context, which is important for implementation and also for messaging to the public. Political support is always good. We have a monitoring framework. We need to have a monitoring framework and a reporting mechanism, so that we can track progress, so that we can feed back to council and have that audit trail of what we're doing and why we're doing it, and how well we're doing at it. And we also need a public engagement framework and messaging, because you know, getting that buy-in is super important. And you know, with everything climate change, a lot of it is behaviour based and market driven. So I think getting the community's buy-in is super important. Next slide, please, Pam. So in terms of what it's going to look like, at the moment I'm envisaging an overarching vision, some high-level objectives, a summary of existing evidence and forecasting, because I know there's a chapter and verse of evidence out there. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We know that buildings and transportation are the largest emitters of greenhouse gas emissions in Ontario, and we can choose to focus on those sectors if we choose to, as there's a lot of opportunity there to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. And then on to kind of a few actions. I don't want a huge raft of actions. I'll go on to my approach in the next slide, but that can be both long-term and short-term, and hopefully integrate mitigation and adaptation at the same time. And sitting alongside the CAP will also be the engagement strategy and communications plan, because I said communications and messaging is a really important component of the climate action plan. Next slide, please, Pam. So my general approach at the moment and format is a concise document that's also a living document, so that we can update it, we can track the progress. Effectively, it will become the monitoring tool that we can use to report to council. I want to integrate mitigation and adaptation as much as possible, with a focus on those largest emitters of buildings and transport, and also have a short list of priority actions that we can update there. Next slide, please, Pam. So in terms of the actions, I've given some examples here. These are by no means binding. This is kind of just what kind of came to me when I was thinking about what we might want to include. So I think having some quick wins that we can do over the next 12 months would be fantastic, because we can say this is working, this is what we've done. And I put quick in brackets because on the face of it, some of these seem pretty simple, but there's a lot more behind it. So things like paperless e-billing, electronic transfers, getting rid of that paper side of things, adding climate change section to staff reports, so that we can, when we do bring a report to council, we can say how it's affecting climate change. Obviously, not everything is relevant to that, but where it is, we can kind of keep an audit trail of how we're addressing those. We'll have to review ROP later in the year anyway, so it's an opportunity to review our climate change policies and opportunities to strengthen the policy framework for a more holistic approach to both mitigation and adaptation. We have a lot of building going on in the future, so secondary planning process is going to be really important, and there's so many opportunities in that to have a neighbourhood level and holistic approach to climate change. You know, we can possibly think about district energy, we can plan complete communities, we can think about active transportation, and there's so much we can influence there. On new buildings, we might want to consider a green standards program or a checklist for new development. It doesn't have to be like a full, standard, but it might be worth having a checklist. And then retrofitting our existing building stock and seeing what opportunities there are there, if we need to come up with a strategy. And then looking at EV charging stations, electric mobility, maybe in the town's property, and then zoning bylaw updates if we feel those are necessary. Next slide, please, Pam. And just to kind of finish on the work plan itself, this is quite high level, but hopefully preparing the draft climate change action plan and the engagement plan over quarter 2 and 3, just kind of being realistic about timeframes and how much work is going to be involved, and then sharing the drafts with key stakeholders like yourselves. Quarter 4, hopefully some public engagement, that might change. We might want to do it throughout, I'm not entirely sure yet. And then quarter 4, taking it to committee for whole and getting council endorsement. Hopefully by the end of the year, it would be nice to kind of start the new year with the new climate action plan, and also adding a section for future considerations. So that's basically examples of future actions that we might want to do that we don't have the capacity or the resources for, but we might in the future. And then focusing on implementation. Next slide, please, Pam. So yeah, in terms of discussion, that's kind of everything. I would like to kind of understand as one thing how this committee would like to be engaged, how often, what would you like me to bring, if anyone's got any thoughts on that, and then just kind of any thoughts or ideas or suggestions you have on what I've just said.
I think bringing forward anything while you're doing like an update to your plan, it would be beneficial for this committee.
Yeah.
I see Helen put her card up. Helen, go ahead.
Thanks, Councillor Jeb. And thanks, Laura. That's great to hear what's happening so far. You mentioned buildings and transportation, the two biggest greenhouse gas sectors. So I agree with that 100%. But also when I think about agriculture, New Tecumseh has a great agricultural sector. And if that's maybe around 10% of greenhouse gas emissions, there's lots, like Councillor Jebb talked about the environmental farm plans. I think that's, could be a positive story, but ways we can reduce it. And food waste, like the whole food systems, when we think about, it's much higher than that. I don't know if it's in the 20, 30 to 40%. When we think about food waste, we can really address that. And the other, what I would say would be around greening initiatives. If we think about carbon sequestration from forests, and I'm pretty sure there was a presentation on this before that New Tecumseh also uses the iTree model. I just was researching one the other day. It's the iTree model, but they also looked at they quantified, monetized the health benefits from reducing extreme heat-related illness. So I think those two areas I think would be really helpful. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, no, thank you. That's fantastic.
Louise. You're on mute, Louise.
Thanks. Sorry about that. Laura, what's your plan for developing the vision for the plan?
So that's one thing that I wanted to ask the group is, would you like to be involved? Would you like me to bring a draft to you? Would you, that's kind of like the overarching kind of cornerstone of the whole climate action plan. So I would like to run that kind of past you all to get your input, because it's a really fundamental part of the plan, because that will likely, well, it obviously can change, but everything kind of feeds from the vision. And so I'd like it to be holistic. I would like it to be, overarching. So I think it's a really important piece of the climate action plan that I can certainly bring to you. And then it might be I bring sections of the climate action plan. I might bring the actions, for example, and then you will see the document as a whole further down the line.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the foundation of everything. So I think that, the more input, I would recommend that the more input that you can get into that foundation, the better. And if we can help with that, I think that's important for us to have some input on that. But would you be getting any doing any public consultation even at that point?
Well, that's kind of what I need to work up with the engagement plan, because obviously we have to be conscious of resources. It would be great to do, a lengthy climate action plan with, huge amounts of public engagement, but we have to be realistic with what we've got and the resources. So I think a kind of more concise document is the way forward. And Jen, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in here. I think where Louise is going and this group. So Laura's just kind of putting together like kind of the framework of where we were thinking of and getting that input. If it's something that this committee wants to do, we can also, look at dedicating some time at the upcoming meetings to workshop various things. So I'll leave that with the committee members to discuss how they want that involvement. If you want to do some workshopping, definitely, the committee would always be used for review, but if you want to have more of a fulsome role in this, we're welcome to this, because you are the Environmental Advisory Committee. And Louise, it's been on our work plan, and it's been on something that I mentioned, but now we have some staff in planning, and Laura is pretty passionate about this and wants to take this on. So we're grateful for that. So I leave it before the committee.
Great, thank you. Can I just ask one other quick question in terms of the time frame? What's your how far out are you looking?
In terms of the overall plan kind of period, well, I want a mix of short-term, long-term actions. Those long-term actions, I'm kind of looking at 10 years, but like what I want is a living document so that we can tick things off and then we can add things. So we might have something that, we might tick off a few quick actions, but then say, okay, let's look at something that's more longer term. So, for example, an energy retrofit program, or looking at the infrastructure and asset management plan and finding opportunities to green and future-proof those kind of assets. it kind of depends on funding. It kind of depends on resources, but we might want to do a whole review of possibly the bylaws. We might want to introduce a stormwater bylaw to look at green roofs and how we manage stormwater. There's a whole raft of things that we can do. It's just picking the right thing when and where. But yeah, for now, I'm looking kind of short term within 12 months, and then longer term, kind of 10 years.
Thank you.
So that's the rough idea.
Yeah, thanks.
Stephanie, go ahead.
I can't hear.
Stephanie, you're still muted. We can't hear you.
So it shows that she's unmuted. So something wrong with your headset and your microphone, Stephanie.
No.
No.
Oh, well, let me try again.
There you go. There you go.
Oh, you can hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it's the headset. Sorry. And thank you very much, Laura. This is very exciting for all of us. A few questions. Well, let's just say 2 questions. So, and a comment. But the county's climate change plan that we saw, I mean, I'm sure that that's going to be developed in parallel to the one that you're developing. Is that right? Like it'll dovetail somehow, or one will inform or both will inform the other?
To be honest, I know I need to kind of integrate the levels, but we will be responsible for our climate action plan. So I see mine as a bit of a separate. I will obviously look to the county, and I'm not going to be doing anything that's not in conformity with the county. But at the moment, I'm seeing it as just a separate document that we have control over. So yes, I understand they have a climate change strategy. I will, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. If there's a good idea in there, I will steal it. But otherwise,
we're being taped, Laura.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I didn't mean. I just meant there's no point in reinventing the wheel, so we can use evidence and other things that are available to us. So if they have any ideas that we can implement ourselves, then we can do that. But yeah, I see this as more of a standalone document for the town's use.
Okay, awesome. So I also noticed, just because of the energy conservation theme of this meeting, that New Tecumseh has a 5-year energy conservation and demand management plan, which I also had no idea existed before, a week ago. But that is mostly about the corporation of the towns. I mean, I don't have to tell you, but just for anyone else who hasn't read it or seen it, that's about the town's greenhouse gas emissions from its own facilities. But is this climate change plan you're developing more community-wide, like a community energy plan, or like? Yeah,
for sure. It's more of a public-facing document, I would say. I mean, part of it, an action of it might be we review our corporate emissions strategy. I mean, we're moving into a new building in, later this year. So there's no point in kind of doing that work now. We might as well look to the future. That might be something we review. But this is definitely more of a more public-facing, community-based initiative that I envisage at the moment.
Okay, I guess one more comment would be the NVCA, I think, is a resource also for developing climate change plans. I think they have assisted other municipalities. I'm sure Shira would have maybe some more comments. Anyone working with the NVCA might.
Yes. So part of the engagement plan will be looking at all of the stakeholders and to have input and help us out with this too, as it being a community-based document. So we'll be looking for various stakeholders and partners on this.
Okay, thanks.
Jennifer, was there anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Yeah, I think our plan will be separate, but you'll want to dovetail it to coincide with.
We will have to conform to the county's plan. Their strategy focused on different things, as well as what's going to be going into their official plan as part of their municipal comprehensive review work. And that was their draft strategy. So we haven't seen their final document yet. My understanding is that there will be a draft official plan coming out in the coming month from the county. So we'll have to see what their climate change policies are looking like, and then what happens to their climate change strategy as well.
Helen touched on the food waste, and I think, Jennifer, I showed you that cylinder thing, that digester that does
Yes.
capture the carbon. And I know that's a county thing because they collect the compost. But is there any way at our level that we can recommend that to the county? Like, would we go through you or Laura?
Well, you can make submission to the county, but anything like that has to be approved by the province. Because any system you propose that's not recognized by the ministries has to be approved by them if you're going to be using it for municipal waste.
Okay, because it's kind of approved now at the agricultural use.
For individual farm properties, but if you're going to put it at a bigger scale, anything like that does require ministry approvals.
Yeah, so then they would have to go through, I guess, a procedure to get it approved.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else for Laura? Okay. None. I want to thank Laura, and I guess Councillor Waters is maybe gone, but I want to thank you both for joining us tonight. And Laura, we'll probably see you in and out through our meetings.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's good. And if we had any other questions, Jennifer, do we ask through you or do we get in touch with Laura?
You can just email through me, and I can work as it's easier for one contact for EAC members to work through the staff contact being myself. So I'd be happy to, work with that with any questions. Okay.
Stephanie has a question.
Sorry, just quickly, or a second of supporting an idea. I think that Director Best, your idea of having a workshop would be great. I really like that idea. I don't know if anyone else had.
I do too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know how it happens, but I think it sounds like we could work with maybe to vision or the framework of measuring indicators that can get all really hard for one person. So.
Based on the comments from the committee, if you're supportive, I can work with Pam to put something on the agenda, and I can facilitate a working session to some type of brainstorm or whatnot. I've got a lot of facilitation tools in my toolbox, so we can definitely put something together for this committee and workshop various components as we move through it.
That's great. That's great.
Good. Well, can I have a motion to accept both presentations? Stephanie and Maria, all in favor? Yep. Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda, correspondence. The MVCA's tree planting initiatives in New Tecumseh. They own the farm on the 7th line where the Pecuniary animal shelter is, and it always had been farmed, and the farmer always had access through the farm to the south. It's been sold. He no longer can get access to the farm. So MVCA will be planting trees there. And for the life of me, I asked, and now I can't remember if it's 40 or 70 acres. So it will be planted in trees and with the hopes of putting in trails and stuff. But that is to be happening this year. So that's kind of exciting news. I have, and I will get back to you with the acreage. I asked and I got the answer, and now it's gone out of my head. I can't remember. So I will pass on the information on how many acres that was. Unfinished business, number 4, Water Conservation Initiative update. Jennifer, is that you?
I was sort of, I guess if it's the toilet rebate program and the rain barrels, I can speak to that.
Yes, please. Because we were
Okay.
going to see about doing it at a farmer's market.
Right. So I'm going to start with the rain barrel program first. So the program came out in 2009 as part of some best practice recommendation document from Public Works. But the actual rebate program actually started fully in 2012. So the program basically works where a resident can purchase any type of rain barrel at whatever price. Then the resident completes an online application on the town's website to seek a rebate. So the rain barrel rebate is capped at 50% of the cost of it to a maximum of $50. So after they submit, a receipt and that sort of thing, within 6 to 8 weeks, a check is mailed to the resident. So the program's operated for about 9 years. They've had 89 rebates offered, with 24 alone in 2020. I guess it was that year of water restrictions and that sort of thing that the rain barrels became a little more enticing. And they do advertise the rebate program on the web and social media and that sort of thing, usually in the spring and summer months, to get people thinking about that. So when we had talked at the last meeting about, doing sales and things like that, I did talk to Public Works about buying in bulk and those types of things, and there's storage and staffing challenges, and they've had good success with the rebate program where it gives folks a choice of whatever rain barrel, whatever size and features to suit their house. So there's a lot of different rain barrels on the market. So it gives full choice, and the town doesn't specify what kind or anything. They just say, give us the receipt and we'll give you 50% up to $50. So that kind of gives that flexibility. But there is a company out there that comes and they can sell them and that sort of thing. And it's the company's Rain Barrel. And they do truckload sales for fundraising and that sort of thing. And on their website, it was kind of surprising that both Alliston and Bradford had a sale coming soon. So I don't know what other organization was teaming up with this, or maybe they put it down there to try and entice somebody to take advantage of it. I didn't want to click too many buttons and commit to selling rain barrels. So, but what they do is they sell them at a discount price. Residents can select the size and model and features, and then they pay for it. And then the truck shows up at the date, and you basically show up with your receipt. Somebody checks it off, and they'll load it in the back of the vehicle, and off they go. So the idea, if EAC does want to pursue this, there is a bit of a challenge because we'd have to have staff handling some of the money and sales, and then but EAC would be responsible for setting it up and majority of it, because we don't have a lot of resources, and we are not to be using a lot of staff for overtime and that sort of thing in order to be financially responsible at the municipal level. So there are some options there, so the committee can chat about that. Moving on to the toilet rebate program. Currently, the toilet rebate program is for residential uses only and allows for up to 2 toilets per household to be replaced that are older than 1996. As I indicated before, that was a date in the building code that changed from kind of low flow to the ones you'd flush and you may feel it in your well or whatnot. So the rebate also applies to the 3 communities and the rural areas. So it doesn't matter if you're on municipal water or rural, it's always good to promote water conservation. The rebate's $50 per toilet, is based upon a receipt and inspection from the town. During COVID, there was no physical inspection, but people just basically, did a receipt and some pictures and sort of thing. So it was kind of a different type of inspection, but it worked. I asked Public Works staff on the commercial use, and they didn't recommend it because most businesses have their own specific specifications, and businesses are out there to make money. So we're actually trying to help residents on water conservation. But if you look at small businesses, it can be challenging to administer, and we don't really have the staff resources to manage a large toilet rebate program. So they've had some success. They've had some success with the toilet rebates over the years when people are renovating homes, and happy to help out with the up to 2 toilets per household.
Okay. So, ladies, we had talked about maybe doing, setting up a table at the farmer's market in Alliston and promoting the rain barrel and the toilet rebate. We also talked about purchasing the rain barrels, having them there. So now that we've kind of heard about this company, Rain Barrel, and you said they've already set up something for in Alliston?
I don't know. They had a lot of different communities because I did a search, and they had Alliston and Bradford, because I was looking to see what was, other examples. And some of them had it was about, some community event thing. And then there was just communities listed with a link. And so I didn't think that there was anything for Alliston. But like Beaton or Tottenham weren't listed. But maybe it's the company's marketing that they try and entice by because there's a laundry list of communities listed.
I wonder how old the list is, because I do know that my mom, when she was part of the Hornets were selling rain barrels.
It could be, so I'm not sure. So I can pass along to Pam and through distribution to the committee, but it's like basically rainbarrel.ca was the company that does this, does them for, like the Hornets or school organizations. I know my son's school for a history trip overseas was selling rain barrels. That's how we got one. And I'm glad, because we use it all the time. But that's what the one that seemed to be common in Ontario that organizations used.
I'm wondering if just an information table with us there, like offering our time on a Saturday at the farmer's market, just promoting and maybe making up a brochure that we could hand out to people, like to residents that are coming to the farmer's market. We did that with the accessibility committee one time. We set up at it was a trade, the Chamber of Commerce trade show in the spring. So I don't know, what do you think? See Stephanie nodding her head. Yes. Steph, go ahead.
Okay, I mean, yeah, I mean, I would happily volunteer to do that at the farmers market. In Alliston for a few weeks. I mean, I go anyway, and to see if there's any more uptake, to see if it's worthwhile. I mean, just just to get the word out, maybe about the fact that an environmental advisory committee exists. People might not even know that. So, I think I would volunteer to do that if you need one.
Maria.
Yep, and I agree with Steph on that. Happy to volunteer. I'm curious about whether we have a sense for if there's specific areas that we'd like to target. Like, do we know who's getting the barrels and who's getting the toilets, and whether there's ways to target who we want to make use of these rebate programs?
Mm-hmm. I think that would be better for us than just trying to wrestle with rain barrels with people, like trying to load. I could just see people trying to load rain barrels. If we could just give them the information and promote the idea, I think that would be more feasible. Shira.
Sorry, my internet connection is really slow. Louise, do you know if you're allowed to have rain barrels in Briar Hill?
I was wondering that. You're
Sorry.
muted.
Yeah, sorry. As a matter of fact, it just came up in a conversation yesterday at a meeting. One of our colleagues had to apply to the individual condo board to get permission. And there were some restrictions. It had to be even a certain color, but they finally agreed to let him have a rain barrel. But I don't know the extent of how many others have it, or I don't know. And the problem with Briar Green and Briar Hill and Greenbrier is that there's like 30 some different condo corporations within the whole community. So you have to get every condominium corporation's permission to do these kinds of things. So I don't know the extent of them at all, but I do know that one fellow got permission from his.
Is that something your committee, what's it called? Grays for Green?
Grays for Green, yeah.
So maybe you could start promoting that at the condo meetings. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, I just made some notes about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Shira, did you have anything else? I see Tottenham the Chamber of Commerce is going to be doing I want to say a trade show, but that's not it. What did they call it?
Home
show. Thank you.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know when that is. Is it in May?
May 14th.
I think. My daughter's birthday. Yeah.
Ah, there you go. Good way to celebrate a birthday. Maybe we could talk about setting up a little information table at that, Jennifer.
Well, this is something that, the committee would have to agree and organize on.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I do know at the, it's so long ago. I remember that there was a trade show not like a while back that I went to, and the town had their own table there, and they were promoting Parks and Rec, and they were promoting, they had it was just an information table with everything there.
I wonder if that's something we could ask that we could participate in as a town with information on the other things.
That's right. Or if we could have.
Well, Shira, you froze, I think.
I know. I'm sorry. It's my internet.
I know. We'll be patient.
One thing we could do is check with Parks and Rec and Public Works to see what events they have committed to for 22 and relay that back through email to the committee, if that would be where Shira, I think, may be going.
Yeah, because they had the one time they had the information on everything. So maybe that's something we could do to promote, like, the town has this, this, and this. So like the different departments. Okay, maybe I can look into that, Jennifer, or you can email and keep me in the loop.
So I'll reach out to whoever the events coordinators are, because I know there's various events that the town has, tables or whatnot at. I don't have that information, but I was going to say I can reach out to a Public Works, Parks, Recreation, and Culture, and maybe Economic Development. They seem to be the three groups that do a lot of promotion, if you want to say, and attend events, and see what events they've committed to for a table and relay that information back.
Okay. All right. And we can go from there. Maybe even just if you email back, and if it is in May 14th in Tottenham, could we work through email to see whether or not if this is something we want to do, and even if they're not going, if the town as a whole isn't doing it, maybe we can set up a table and how much it would cost, etc. Oh, Pam, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to remind the committee that the last motion that was passed by council did include that committee members are permitted to attend various community events to promote the Rain Barrel program, the benefits of water conservation, and other environmental initiatives. So I think that motion encompasses that you can definitely set up information tables. It's just that it's up to the committee, I guess.
Okay. Well, let's find out if the town has gone ahead to attend any of these events, and then we can maybe go from there.
Through Donna, what I'll do is I'll get on that in the next day or so and get that list as soon as I can. And
Okay.
once I have it, composed, reaching out to staff, I'll send it to the entire committee via email so that you're all aware of what events are upcoming and where town staff will be.
Okay, good. Thank you, Jennifer. Thanks, Pam, for reminding me on that one. Okay, new business, energy conservation. First of all, municipal buildings and facilities.
Okay, that's me. So I've reached out to Parks and Rec as well as Public Works. So I'm going to start with Parks and Rec. So the information they provided me is that they are all jointly managed for operational energy consumption and conservation review. So they're starting this. So it's kind of in its infancy at this point, but it's something that's definitely on their work plan coming up. So maybe this is something we can reach out to them and be a part of if they're just starting. Next, they have a energy conservation upgrade, a new project, energy efficient perspective. So as I mentioned, that's what they'll be working on. Parks perspective for playing fields and park lighting. It's going to be incorporated into this review. And so future initiatives are going to be brought forward as part of the budget process through the service enhancement requests, which I'm sure Donna and Shira are very familiar with. And so they're starting this whole energy conservation thing. So the timing's great because we can work it into the climate change action plan as well as connect with them when they start this plan. Moving on to Public Works. For lighting, all of the outdoor lighting in the town facilities have been replaced with the LED, as well as major facility indoor lights have also been. And they also have occupancy sensors on them, so they turn them on and off automatically so they're not lighting up all night. There's been some upgrades for the water and wastewater facilities as well. So they purchased and installed some blowers for the wastewater plant. Basically, it results in a significant amount of energy savings. And they're going to be purchasing another blower this spring to continually work on improving energy conservation. They've also installed some other, I'm not a mechanical engineer, water, wastewater person, but these variable frequency drives in our town's wells and pumping stations, and those also result in significant energy savings. Further, they've allowed the pumps to run as much as possible during off peak time when the energy is cheaper. So they've been doing energy load shifting, if you want to call it. There's been operational changes to pump the water to distribute directly from the wells, eliminating double or pumping. So that's been something. And they've introduced a water bypass to allow the Honda plant directly from its distribution, eliminating the need for booster pumps running 24/7. So all of these measures they put in result in a bigger energy conservation savings. With respect to vehicles, they've replaced one pickup truck with a compact car. So they've been reevaluating the fleet and looking at what is really needed and looking at using other types of vehicles and not just going with the standard pickup truck that they always had when you don't need it and you can have a compact car. They've been utilizing the Save on Energy program to upgrade their equipment and get a payback for energy conservation. And they've also enrolled in the Ontario Energy Management Program for several years. So we also get paid for being on standby and shut down as the main energy consumers when the province is at that peak time. So you choose to shut down in order to help prevent blackouts and brownouts and those types of things. So that's what's been going on with Parks and Rec and the Public Works. Oh, Don, I think you're on mute right now. I know.
Sorry, I know. I'm sitting here nodding away. Is there talk with Public Works about future purchase of electric vehicles?
I'm not aware of where they're going with the fleet purchasing. I know it was talked about during budget deliberations, but I don't know based on need yet, and the fact that we don't have the EV chargers either. So that's something that would have to be asked as part of budget and the asset management under fleet.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Helen? And then Louise, sorry.
Thank you. So, and apologies if you mentioned this already, Jennifer, but does the town report on the energy, like do they benchmark it so that every year they can see improvements? Like, is that a requirement at some provincial legislation? If not, it would be nice to see it.
I couldn't answer that, Helen, because I'm not in there. This would be something that Chad Horan, Director Horan's group, would be able to talk about if you want to pursue that a bit more with regards to energy conservation.
So if that is possible, how do I do that to the committee? I think just a request to whether if they're able to report on it.
Through Jennifer, Jennifer could ask Chad and then report back to us. If that is being done, Jennifer?
Okay, so you're asking, just so I'm clear on the direction. So do we report on the energy savings, and are there benchmarks?
Yes, thanks. Yeah. And would that be reported to council? Like, other municipalities do that, where they have their energy efficiency program and they report in their committee meetings what the energy consumption is. It'd be nice to see how it's improving. Okay.
Okay, thanks for that. Now I understand what I'm asking. So he doesn't give me the blank stares.
Stephanie, go ahead. Oh, sorry, Louise.
Oh,
Louise.
Okay. It's okay. Actually, I had the exact same question, but I would just comment that I think, as I was listening to you run through the list, like, there's some impressive things there. And I think the public would like to know those kinds of things. So I think there's some good news stories in that. And so I think it's really important to have some benchmarks and to be able to track it and to publicly talk about it.
To share it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Stephanie, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's okay. In looking at the energy conservation plan that New Tecumseh has to have, I did also notice that I think it's through the Green Energy Act of 2013 that all municipalities have to have this energy conservation plan, like a 5-year plan every 5 years. And then it does say that they have to report annually on energy use and greenhouse gas emissions beginning July 1st, 2013, and post that information online. But I couldn't find it online for TNT. And yet I did find it on, like at the Innisfil municipality site has that. And I think it's because I think that maybe the town has to submit it to somebody, like maybe the province. And so I wonder if it would just be easy to publish whatever they submit to the province, like on a website. And along the same lines of what Louise was suggesting, I noticed that Wasaga Beach has a really good website. It's literally called Climate Action. And I'm sure this is going to be a part of Laura's,
Yeah, we've been looking at it. It's quite, it's a love. I sent it to her saying, look at this. This is amazing. So we're all over the Wasaga Beach site as well.
Yeah. And you know what? And I heard from someone from the Wasaga Beach, like there's a community or a Collingwood climate action team that's quite active. Okay. So, and they are, and I think they're connected. I don't know. I think it's Wasaga Beach though, that has like a community climate action group, and a staff person from the town actually attends the meetings. And so I'm not saying that needs to happen necessarily here, but I think there is a real opportunity by posting some of this information online and engaging the people that are trying to do the work in the community too. So I'm sure that you're well aware of it. But
Amen.
Yeah.
So do you want that, would you like to make that recommendation that the town posts their results or their annual?
Their energy, yeah, their annual, that was actually something I was also going to suggest before Helen did, was just that to report annually on energy use and greenhouse gas emissions. Yeah.
Okay, where's Pam? There she is. Did you get that, Pam?
Nope. So if we're going to send this off to council and staff have to then report on it, it would be helpful, I think, if we were asking them exactly what it is we want them to report on, or do we know already what the requirements are that staff are already reporting and we find that out and then that's what you would like posted publicly so that they're not making, two different reports?
Okay. So I have I have it in front of me because I copied and pasted it from my little research, but Regulation 397-11 under the Green Energy Act, entitled Energy Conservation and Demand Management Plan, requires public agencies to report annually on energy use and greenhouse gas emissions beginning July 1st, 2013, and post that information online. But I can send it to you.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Thank you.
That's a lot of writing quickly.
Yeah.
So what they have to report to the province, if the town staff could post it on our town website. That's the shorter version of it. Right, Stephanie?
Yeah. That's
Okay.
the gist of it. So my understanding is I think when I looked at Innisfil, Innisfil they have an annual, it says annual energy audit or annual energy report. And it's literally like a spreadsheet that is line by line, what every building uses. And it looks like it's probably something they have to submit to someone else. And it's because I work for a bureaucracy too. Like we have our own indicators we have to submit to the province. And that spreadsheet looks to me like something they have to submit to the province and they're just putting it online. So it's
online.
It's not a lot of extra work. They're not creating a new report.
Right.
Helen.
Thank you. Not to complicate things, but I think the Green Energy Act has been repealed. I don't know.
Maria's nodding her head. Yeah.
Maybe something different has replaced it.
Maria, you probably know the new
It's been repealed, but I think municipalities can voluntarily oblige by the regs. So there's no official requirement.
Oh, no official requirement? Yeah. Oh, crumb. Okay. So maybe we should find out if they're still officially submitting it. And if they are, then can they post it? Jennifer, can you find out for us?
Sure.
Okay. Maria? And then
Another place to look would be the, I guess, Simcoe County to see if they had embedded any of that within their official plan before the Green Energy Act was repealed.
Okay. Louise?
Yeah, I was just going to say, if they don't have to report anything, then I guess what we're left with is a request to say, are there targets for energy conservation and greenhouse gas emission reductions, or are they just, as the Public Works as an example, just doing this on their own? And if they could report on their accomplishments, on what they've achieved so far.
Yeah. To report their accomplishments. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So will we hold off until we find out on that motion? Stephanie, where are you? There you are. Will we hold off with that recommendation till we find out if they do actually report to the province or what they're doing?
Sure. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if they still are, well, then let's report our accomplishments, pat them on the back when they're doing a good job.
Right.
I would just also wonder whether at what point it would be if it would be easy to just link this energy conservation plan that that the town has. It seems like it's just an easy link onto the environmental website for TNT, because I didn't know it existed, and I had to Google TNT energy conservation. It came right up, but on our environmental webpage, I think it's called the TNT environment webpage that we talk about the water conservation programs. Is it possible just to link this very good report about the energy use by the town? It's very detailed. It's excellent. Just as a 5-year thing. I don't know.
Okay, so how can we word that? That we recommend.
Sorry, what are you trying to link on the environmental page?
Okay, I'm going to find the exact name of the report now. I'm just going to scroll up here. It's the New Tecumseth 2019 to 2024 Energy Conservation and Demand Management Plan.
Yeah. Did you get that, Pam?
And where did you find it?
Yeah.
On our webpage?
I didn't Google it on our
It's just a
webpage.
matter of taking this and linking it on the environment, like moving it to a different page. I think staff can probably take care of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't find it navigating the TNT website. I went onto Google search engine and I just typed in Town of New Tecumseth Energy Conservation. It took me there. I don't know if it's linked anywhere on the TNT site right now. I'm not sure. It must be somewhere, but I didn't navigate to it. I don't know if it's anywhere easy.
So yeah, maybe make it more accessible. Okay, Pam. Oh, now she's jumped off.
Yeah.
So
no, I was going to go for it. So yeah, but I need to see I would like to see what Stephanie's talking about before.
okay.
We make promises to put it on the webpage. So
If it's a possibility, how about that? No
yeah,
promise.
absolutely. I haven't seen anything yet, so I can't make any promises, but
Okay.
absolutely I would be happy to, if it's a town report, to put it where you think it should be on the website. That's fine.
So do you want me to send you the link, or do you want to Google it?
Yeah, if you could send me the link and then I could look at it and I'll see what's going on with it.
Okay, thanks.
So just that we want to make that energy conservation plan more accessible for access on the town website.
Yes.
Yeah. So Pam's off looking at that.
Hey, oh, sorry, Pam. It's, the PDF I sent. Sorry, Pam, I sent you a PDF slides that it's on there, which I don't actually need to do because we've covered everything in it. But on the PDF slides I sent you, it's linked in those slides.
Okay, thanks, Stephanie. I will have a look because I haven't had a chance to review the slides either. So let me have a look.
Okay. Well, Pam's working on that. We've talked about the lighting because Jennifer talked about the lighting at the Parks and Rec, so we've covered that. Right? You didn't have anything more. Shira, go ahead.
Just on the topic of lighting, there's this trend happening in rural areas of people putting a lot of lights on the outside of their house to like light up the brickwork and everywhere. And I don't know how, like I've looked at our policy, our bylaw, and it doesn't, like, I don't think that those are breaching the bylaw, because it's not that they're necessarily like moving off of their property. However, the trend is alarming to me because it's just getting rid of the darkness. Like you move out to the country for darkness and then all of a sudden you're getting rid of it. It's not just us, it's also impacting animals. And I would just like to find a way that we can, I don't know, if we could look at other municipalities. I know that there's a dark sky policy up north on the Bruce that I've looked at, but I don't know if there's other comparable municipalities like Uxbridge or Guelph or some other places that may have a policy around that, or if it can be integrated into when people are applying for their housing and just making a suggestion that they maybe reconsider the putting lights everywhere. So I thought I'd bring that to the committee and see what we can do. Thanks.
Maria?
It's an interesting point. So there's an organization called the Fatal Light Awareness Program, and it's specific to migratory birds, but there are resources that they can provide, and maybe we can invite them even to this committee just to share what they've done with some municipalities to encourage, switching off the lights.
Jennifer, go ahead.
Sometimes in official plans under green development standards, they require dark sky compliant lighting as well as bird friendly lighting as well. So if we go down that road of where Laura was presenting on the green development standard, that's something that could go in our official plan to require both bird friendly and dark sky compliant to deal with the issues of light pollution and the reflection and things for bird friendly as well for buildings. I know it's in the King Township new official plan.
I would question though, with our barn, we have to have lighting around our barn for security. So is that what you're thinking of?
No, it's definitely not that. No, you just take a drive in the country and you see like it's a new trend, and it's just like you light every 5 feet. There's a light that's lighting up your building to make it look like architecturally interesting or something. I'm not saying that it's just to highlight the house in some way. So it's not really for safety or security, like being able to walk or anything like this. It's on the second floors. It's really just light pollution, in my opinion. And it's just a fear of darkness. Again, totally judging it harshly.
Maybe that's something Laura could put into one of the things for the climate action. And Laura's still on there. There she is. She's nodding her head.
Yep.
Yes.
I'm here, I'm listening. Yeah, I've just noted that down actually. It's certainly something we could add into like a green standards checklist or whatever, but we can certainly add it into the climate action plan actions as well. So
it could also be a separate bylaw to regulate outdoor illumination as well, to support the dark sky, things like that too. So you can have bylaws, you can put it into official plan policy, into the climate change plan. It can be weaved throughout, and so it's for it's for lighting that's not necessary. So that's what Shira was speaking to, was just aesthetic lighting.
Yeah.
Not for security purposes or, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like it unnecessarily lighting the sky.
Yeah. I can call in small planes sometimes with some of the lights that people have. Louise, go ahead. You're muted, Louise.
Sorry, keep forgetting about that. I was just going to ask what the process is if we wanted to take it to the degree that we wanted to put it into a bylaw, because I fully support this as well. I've been on about this for a long time. So what is the process if we wanted to make a recommendation to council, or if we wanted to change the bylaws to incorporate this into the bylaws? What is the process? If we wanted to make a recommendation.
Well, we would make a recommendation to council, and then they would in turn refer it to staff. But if Laura is already starting to work on some things with the climate change policy, we could get it put into there. So she's put it down in one of her notes. So should we bring it forward now, or will we wait for the climate change? Jennifer, what is your recommendation for this?
I think at this point, I would put it in under the climate change, because some of those quick wins and actions could be a policy document, and putting it into the official plan as well. So I think because we've got lots of ideas that are, bouncing around like popcorn right now, and we've got a passionate group here, which is why we presented to Laura had this great presentation tonight, because we knew we'd get you on our side to start facilitating this work. That's where we want to do some brainstorming of what do we want to see in this climate change action plan, because you can go in many different directions, as we've seen with the EAC work plan. And I think that's where, when we workshop it, we can kind of come up with these lists and actions and things like that. And because it's not far out, we're not looking at years and years, we're looking at months. And as Laura expressed in there, there's some quick wins, and it may fall into one of these categories. So I wouldn't, I think at this point, it would be a bit premature to jump on a bylaw at this point, considering we can incorporate it into a climate change action plan. And that way, council, if they choose to endorse it, then it becomes an action that's directed generally to staff to do. So it'd be kind of like indirectly, the EAC gets it through, but through a different means.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yep, thank you.
Yep. Okay. Electric car charging stations in the new buildings. At the Rural Ontario Municipal Association conference, there was a person talking at one of the workshops about installing the new EV charging stations in buildings and in town buildings. If you're building them, it's easier to put it in as it's being built than trying to put it in after it's built. So I was wondering about our new town hall, if there would be an opportunity to put in 1 or 2 charging stations at our new town hall, in the anticipation that, down the road, we're going to have electric cars or electric vehicles in our fleet. So that's what I was thinking whenever I put that into the agenda for tonight. So what are your thoughts? Shira.
I completely support that. I think that, what they have at Lake Simcoe is they have the parking spots that are right near the door. So you have your wheelchair parking, and then you have your prime spots to park, and they're the EV stations. And then they also have other close ones, which are the carpool stations. So it's just a way of encouraging people to, take these new initiatives. I know that the county was going to be putting in charging stations in New Tecumseh, like they had a plan for where they were going to be putting them. And I think one was at the Tottenham Mall. And I don't know where the one in Alliston was supposed to be. I just know where the Tottenham one was supposed to be. So I wonder if we can get them to pay for it.
Yeah.
We can have them put them in.
They
have more money than we do. So
yeah. So would they had a plan already? They were going to put them in?
Yeah, it came many like a while back. I remember reviewing it and being slightly annoyed that it was going in not the community center in Tottenham, but at the mall. But their thinking behind it was, if you put it in at the mall, then people can go and do their grocery shopping or whatever while it's charging.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought, well, they could also work out and go to the library. But
yeah.
Right. Maybe we should talk to our county reps and get them to advocate for us to have it happen.
I wonder if there is some kind of, if we could make a recommendation tonight that the county move their idea of charging station to the building that's being, the town hall that's being built, because it's easier to put it in before the building is built. I don't know.
Yeah, and it will be centrally located. It's a walking distance to the downtown.
Yeah.
And it's not favoring one business over another.
Yeah.
And
it's easier to put it in while the building's being built.
yeah, it might be less expensive for them to put it in now.
Yeah.
I think that's a great motion.
Okay, where's Pam? I'm looking for Pam.
Pam's here. She's listening.
It's
It's all ears.
everybody moves around on me when they sign it, like when their picture goes off. Can we make that recommendation that, see, I can't remember when that was, Shira. County was going to have an
It was so
issue.
long ago. It was so long ago, I couldn't tell you. And it was just, yeah, but obviously nothing's been done about it. So I'm not worried about when it was. Let's just put the motion forward and move it forward.
That the county install,
Two
Yeah.
charging stations at the new town hall in
new town
Alliston.
hall as it's
Yeah.
being built.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of how we could say it. Change the location of the charging station that the county was going to install to the town hall that's being built.
I wouldn't even put that in, honestly, Donna, because they can put in 2 charging stations there. They can put them somewhere else. I don't care. I would just say in addition, or as well as, or they haven't put any in at all. So let's just say we're requesting that
Yeah.
the county.
That the county put 2, okay, we're
Yeah.
requesting that the county install 2 charging stations.
Oh, sorry, are we requesting that they install it or that they fund it?
Fund it.
Probably more
I don't
that-
care who installs it. It's
Yeah.
probably some specialized company who installs it.
Yeah,
But they pay for the installation for county charging stations. We'll call them county charging stations.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I'm trying to bring in the fact that they're supposed to be putting them in, but they haven't done it yet. So wherever they were gonna do it, let's change location. But yeah, just to install 2 county charging stations at the new town hall as it's being, I don't even know if we need to put that in, as it's being built, it's easier. How can we say that?
How about in tandem or?
While it's in the construction phase.
Charging stations at the
Yeah.
new administration center during
Yeah.
the construction phase.
During the construction,
Mhm.
During a construction phase.
Keep it simple.
yeah, that's
So,
right.
yeah, I've got a motion to request the county to consider funding the installation of 2 electric cars charging stations at the new administration center in Alliston during the construction phase.
Well, I like. what
Non-administration
you're-
center, new town hall.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's the town hall.
And I like the idea that the county install 2 county electric charging stations.
2 county electric car charging stations
As
at the town hall in Alliston during the construction phase. Well, I guess it's a motion that council support the request of the
Yeah.
Environmental Advisory Committee to the county to consider the funding, to consider the installation of 2 county electric car charging stations at the new town hall in Alliston during the construction phase.
Right,
And if council approves that, then we could send a letter.
right. Does that sound right? Louise, go ahead.
Just wondering if they have any plans at all about, are they regular or slow charging or fast charging? Because I think that's, I don't know the cost of them, but I think the fast chargers are what you want.
Yeah. I don't even know what they were, they haven't installed anything, have they? No. I don't know.
Are there any in town at all? in Alliston?
Not that I know of.
No private ones or?
I think there is one, but I forget where someone said it was. I think it was at a dealership.
Oh, makes sense, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, my point is that I think you would want to ask for a fast charger or a bank. I don't know what they do, but I mean, some areas have, some places have a fast and a slow one at different rates. So
Yeah.
And
I don't-
I'm also assuming that these would be available to the public, which is why you'd want not just staff, right?
Yeah. Jennifer?
Through you to Donna, we can't really specify which one because the county is the one that's installing them. So it would be whatever program they may be getting funding from another source. So we can't really specify the type of charger. It's under the county program or whatever that initiative is. So you're kind of stuck with it if it's a slow or a fast one.
Okay.
So if we're going to take free things from the county, that we have to follow whatever their program would be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Beggars can't be choosers. Is that what you're saying?
Oh dear. Okay, so I've got that motion. Shira makes the motion. And do I have a seconder? Louise, all in favor? Perfect, thank you. Thank you, Mara. Okay, so items for the next agenda. I like the bird thing that Mara was talking about, the dark policy.
Fatal Light Awareness Program.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that called?
The Fatal Light Awareness Program.
Fatal?
Fatal.
Helen?
Thank you. And I think a couple of us, Stephanie and Councillor Shira and I are on Q2. That'll be Q2 to give an update about green infrastructure. Yeah, so that if we could have that on the agenda, if that's all right with the other members.
Yep.
Just while I have the floor, I just want to remind everybody that this Saturday is Earth Hour. So when you're talking about dark skies, maybe consider turning off your lights, no watching TV for maybe 1 hour.
Well, usually I'm sitting down, I look at the inside of my eyelids, so.
You're good.
And Jennifer, the workshops, would we be looking at doing one in May then? For the
Yes,
Okay.
for the start the visioning, to start at the beginning, yes.
Okay. So is that enough for the agenda? If we've got,
I'm just going over the work plan right now is what Helen was doing. So for Q2, so we've got the green infrastructure standards.
I think, was that not in 2021?
Oh, sorry, we did that one earlier, didn't we? The low impact development. I'm just
looking at Q3 initially.
Q3.
Q3.
If there's something I'm supposed to do besides the LID and the,
I'm just looking here.
please tell me. I have a note here about the LSRCA, like Simcoe, and bring them forward to talk about some of their office initiatives and things that they've done. But
Oh,
I don't know what else I'm
we've
supposed
got
to
the lighting LSCRCA about lighting. I have Q2 for you, Shira.
I think so. Councillor Jeb, is it? I think like she's talking about the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority coming and talking about.
But about lighting.
And
It's lighting on it, yeah. LSRCA as a source for Big Saver internally as groups to reduce carbon footprint.
Okay.
Swap days.
Okay, so that's, yeah, so that's like internal office initiatives.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I can talk to them. And so we want that for next meeting.
Well, that fatal, I've lost everybody. Maria, were you talking about having someone to come to speak about that, or you're just going to talk about it?
I can invite someone to come and speak about it. I do have a connection with that organization.
Okay. Okay, if we've got someone coming from LSRCA, and if we do a bit of a workshop, I'm just trying to think of time-wise, because what time is it now, lady? 9 o'clock. Okay, we've been 2 hours. Doesn't seem it.
The workshop would probably be about a half an hour. So we would definitely need 30 minutes. So it may or may not be wise to have a speaker at the next one, and we focus on the visioning and setting the framework for the climate change action plan. But maybe Maria can, as we've got all the members that to kind of do their, synopsis of different things, share a little bit more about this program. And then we would get the information that we could, put that on our list of potential initiatives when we get further down on building the climate change action plan framework. I'm just looking to, with regards to the work plan, we also had trails, but the multimodal active transportation plan hasn't been approved yet. It's still in draft, so we can leave that. And I know Helen and Adam had flood hazard and climate change policies about some general information on that. So again, if that would be something, it would be just an information sharing again on the climate change adaptation on flooding.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Donna had on, you had the presentation from the county on the organic waste management on the agricultural for waste management at the farm level. You kind of covered that at one other time, but is this something you wanted to go more in depth on?
No, it was just, I've always been thinking about that digester thing, and I'm thinking that's something that they really should be looking into. But
would it be under the climate change action plan? Because we talked about food waste and agricultural waste, and maybe bringing it in as one of the projects under there for reducing waste.
Yeah.
And then and see what, if you want to check out with the county on where they were at with their organic waste management, because different, that's a newer thing they're at, because they've introduced different things. So it may be pushing it to the meeting past May. I don't know when it is. To investigate it now, and then if that's the case, maybe that's a good presentation.
Yeah, I could ask them about that, where they are with that. Okay, I can do that, and maybe not May, July. Are we meeting in the summer? I can't remember. Pam, are we meeting in July?
Oh, I think you're on mute now, Pam. What are we going to do when we end up in person? I always think now.
We have a meeting scheduled for July 26th. Sometimes when we get closer to the summer dates, people start to say they're away and whatnot, and then we postpone, or we skip that one and we go to the next one. So we probably do want to decide what the focus is before the end of term.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll look into doing the one, finding out from the county about their composting. And right now, do we want to meet in July? Are you thinking you're going to be away? I'm looking at Louise.
I'm available.
Okay. Stephanie.
I'll do it from wherever I am. I think I did it from very last July. So
Yeah, oh, that's right. That's right. Pam, what are your, will we still be meeting by Zoom? That's the next question.
I can't answer that question.
Can we meet by Zoom? How
I
about that?
don't, you know what, I don't know. I don't have that answer, and I'm not making, those decisions haven't been made yet as far as committees go.
Because if the committees are okay by meeting with Zoom, I think that works, because then if you are away, you can still participate,
Yeah.
like Stephanie did last year. So I think that, I don't know. What are your thoughts? Helen, you've been meeting now for a while.
I'm happy either way. It'd be nice to see people in person once in a while, but I can understand summer maybe isn't the best time if people are vacationing.
Well, maybe we might aim for our summer meeting to be a Zoom meeting anyways. So, because then if you are away, you can participate. So, okay. Okay, well, for now, we're meeting in July. Well,
And is
May.
there a meeting in May?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
But we're just saying, we're going to have quite a bit in the May meeting.
Yeah.
So, and then we were looking at things to do. So I'm going to ask about the county about their composter. And we will maybe have that in